Hey everyone, welcome. In this episode, we are talking to George Winston, award-winning pianist. He is famous for his solo piano performances. He has sold millions of copies of his albums. He plays the piano in three different styles. Firstly, the melodic approach that he developed, and which he calls it as the rural folk piano. And secondly, he plays the stride piano. And thirdly, New Orleans and R&B piano. So let's go ahead. Today we're going to be talking to him. Let's understand the man behind the music, and then we're going to dive deeper and understand how he goes about creating the music that he creates, right? Now, we all know the geniuses think in a certain way, and there are certain mechanics that happens in their brain, and that's exactly what we're going to be unwrapping, unfolding in this podcast. So everybody, let's welcome George Winston. Hey George, hope you're doing good, and we want to firstly know the man behind the music, the kind of person that you are, and also about your everyday. How does George Winston's everyday look like?
Well, generally working on the piano and also guitar and harmonica, but also working on future records I'm doing and things I've recorded of other people. That's the main activities. I guess a hobby could be the whole cosmology thing. It's nice to keep up with all that. The Hubble telescope and all that stuff.
And that is really interesting because it doesn't really surprise anybody. To the kind of music that you play really shows up a lot about nature. Like when you're talking about the telescope and all of that, yes, your music really reflects the nature outside, Like you can look at the stars and imagine your music really, there is a connection there.
Well, I mainly grew up in eastern Montana, the flatlands and the very rural area. And small towns, and the seasons, being in the north, the seasons were very, very distinct from each other. And in fact, I consider when I was there were like two different autumns, two different winters, and two different springs. Wow. And I just think of everything in terms of the seasons, whether it's songs, whether it's kind of anything, kind of like a language. Kind of like I grew up speaking English, so I kind of think words in terms of English. Well, I kind of think existence, nonverbal stuff, everything in terms of the seasons.
Thank you, George, for sharing that. And now let me ask you this question of how did you get into music? Tell us a little about your roots, like from when did you start learning to play the piano, and how long did it take to master and stuff like that?
Well, I spent the first 12 years in eastern Montana just with the seasons. I wasn't involved with music. I didn't listen to music. And then when I was 12, I started listening to music, particularly organists and popular instrumental pieces. And then I was 18, I heard the band called The Doors, and I was inspired by them to get an organ and start playing in a band. And then 4 years later, I heard the recordings of the great pianist Fats Waller. I heard his recordings from the 20s and 30s, and I was inspired to switch to piano. And then that was up-tempo music, what they call stride piano. And I came up with the melodic style, what I call folk piano, is a way to have a complementary kind of music, to have like slow songs. And I call it folk piano because it's like simple and melodic, like folk songs. And then 1979, I started discovering the New Orleans rhythm and blues pianists, particularly Professor Longhair and James Booker and Henry Butler, and I've been studying their music ever since. They've all passed away, but so still working on it.
Wow, that's nice to know of how you started. What about your influences? Can you tell us about who really influenced you in terms of your piano playing?
Well, I would say it would have to be a tie between Professor Longhair and James Booker.
That's amazing start. Okay, so with these influences, how did it shape your piano playing, or probably the way you went about playing the piano or composing the pieces that you have composed?
Yeah, also the rhythm and blues piano. Well, what I always do as I get the left hand down by itself, because the left hand is like the band, it's like the bass, it's like the drummer, it's like the piano player, it's like the guitar player. And then to have the left hand be able to play automatically, and then start working on the right hand. So it's approaching the piano as if it's a band. Like if you were in a band, if you had a band, you would have the band practice the song and the chords and the rhythm, and then when the band had it together, then the singer would start singing with the band. Later after the band's got the music together. Very, very much like that. And I did play in 2 rock bands, and that's the way it was there too, back when I first started.
Wow. The George Winston that we all know is a solo pianist, but then we also get to understand that you are playing for a rock band. Amazing. That's really nice. Now let's go ahead. If you can tell us a little about the process or the steps you take to compose your music.
I never try to compose on purpose. I'm always busy working on things. That of other people's or things I put together from the past, trying to play better. But once in a while, something just kind of emerges, kind of accidentally, and I write down the chords, and then sometimes it stays around. Sometimes I go, nah, that's not really anything. So a couple of times a year, something kind of emerges.
So how do you go about recording these musical ideas? Do you use some kind of a tape recorder or use a MP3 recorder or something like that? Or you go ahead, write chords, sheet music? What do you do? What's your process?
No, I just write down the chords.
You write down the chords.
And then I get back. Then I go back to whatever else I was doing. So it's not anything I ever try to do. I don't even care if it happens. It's nice when it does, but it's nice when it doesn't too. So it's kind of it's kind of a happy accident.
Wow. As you're saying that about the accidental, it kind of reminds me about a famous proverb. It says, all the accidentals perfect the harmony. Wow. Right? That is, I really think this is perfectly relevant.
Yeah. By the way, one of my favorite musicians and biggest inspirations is from India.
Oh. And who is this? That's a surprise.
He's the great violinist from South India, L. Subramaniam.
L. Subramaniam. Wow.
Are you familiar with him?
Yeah.
He's kind of the J.S. Bach of South India. He really put together so many elements of the music and kind of organized it and wrote books and made many, many recordings. I knew him in Los Angeles in the 1980s and 1990s, and he's back in India permanently now.
Wow. That's beautiful. I'm so proud to be an Indian here. Wow, amazing. So I have somebody that I look up to is listening to an Indian music. I'm an Indian playing the jazz music. Amazing. Very good.
There's many I've been inspired by. Of course, Ravi Shankar, and of course, Ala Raka, his tabla player, and Zakir Hussain, Ala Raka's son, Hari Prasad Chaurasi, the great flutist.
Wow, you know a lot of Indian musicians.
Shiv Kumar Sharma plays the santoor. He's a great player. Brish Bhushan Kabra, a great slide guitarist. Nikhil Banerjee, the great sitarist. I've had hundreds of records of Indian classical music.
Amazing. Have you anytime collaborated with an Indian and performed something together?
El Subramaniam and I did some recording many years ago that's somewhere in the archives. Uh, I don't play with anybody, and he wanted me to. And I've been listening to him for 25 years. And I go, well, I basically know his languages. I know kind of what to do. And he brought 2 songs, and I brought one into the sessions. So those are in the archive someplace.
That's great to know. Now, let me ask you a very important question. Now, in any field of work, let it be music, art, science, whatever, becoming an expert in that field, doing the work over and over again for many, many years, we get to understand some kind of a secret about the subject. What would be a secret that you understood about music in all these years of learning and playing piano?
I guess when I'm working on a song, say that I'm working on a song by somebody else. And there's kind of 3 elements. First, the song and the composer and what the song's about. And I love the song, so I want to play it. Second, what instrument am I playing it on? Is it solo piano, solo guitar, solo harmonica? And then the instrument will kind of dictate a bit how I'm going to do it, what I can and can't do with the piece. And then once I've established the key and what instrument I'm going to play it on, then the third element is me. Now what do I want to do with it? So they all 3 kind of interact.
Excellent. So that's the 3 combination that really helps you compose the pieces the way you compose.
Yeah, or the music itself will kind of tell me what to do. I can't always do it, but it'll kind of tell me, oh, wow, go here or change this around, or something I normally play is not working, try to come up with something new, or, something will emerge,
Beautiful.
Later. I'll think of something. One thing I learned from Professor Longhair, I never met him, but I got it from an interview. He calls it, I lay down and dream on it, where you sort of lay down and you just start thinking of music. And then I keep a piece of paper by the bed, and if I think of something that if I was playing the piano, I might be so distracted with practicing that I wouldn't think of the variation. Sometimes I'll think of variations while playing, but sometimes I'll think of them while not playing. And then I'll write that variation down or that idea, and then when I get to the piano, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't at all. You know how sometimes you think about things in your mind and then you try them in the physical world, and sometimes it doesn't work at all. Like you think, oh, I'm going to fly, or I'm going to jump 5 feet in the air, and then you go to try it and you go, no, I can't do it. But it's a bit like that sometimes.
Very, very true. Sometimes even the theory of the music theory itself runs in our head in terms of this chord moving to this chord, and we think, wow, it works. And then only when we try it, amazing. Wow, that's something.
Yeah, the piano in my head is not the physical piano. The physical piano says, well, it doesn't work at all. But in my head, it kind of worked. And that's okay. Just over time, quite a few things come together. Some never come together. Some haven't yet. It's just kind of an ongoing process.
Wow, that's amazing. So imagine you are trying to bring out this piece. Okay, there is this music in your mind, and then you're bringing out into the physical world on the piano. But then you sometimes find each of us find ourselves at a place where, okay, I'm not getting the idea. Like example, when I don't get my idea, so what I do is I take a walk. I take a long walk, or I get busy doing something, and when I'm not even thinking about it, I get that idea. So is that something? Is there something that you try out when you don't get your ideas?
Yeah, that's what happens. Except I don't do it on purpose. I go, this isn't happening. Okay, well, I got 100 other things to work on. So, and then maybe I'll wake up in a year and I'll go, oh, like there was one song by The Doors called Touch Me, and it wasn't working at all. And I woke up one morning after hearing the song for 40 years, and I go, play it as a ballad. It was an up-tempo piece. I went, oh, let's try it as a ballad, half speed, and it worked. So that just sort of came to me when I woke up one day, and I tried it, and it worked.
Wow.
So I can push mentally and have discipline. That's part of it. But that can only go so far sometimes. Sometimes I go, you know what? Nothing's happening. But yeah, so I agree. Go to something else. But I don't go to something else to make the idea come. I just stop. I just give up. I just go, it's not happening. And maybe it'll happen again someday. And if it does, I'll know. I'll get the idea. But I don't try to make it happen. It's just like I don't try to compose a piece. It doesn't work for me.
Okay. It needs to flow through you at its own pace, at its own time.
Something from the subconscious or an accident or something. To me, discipline is practicing, trying to play well. The other stuff is kind of like, if and when it happens, sure, I'm really very neutral about it. It's certainly not bad, but it's not like, oh, wow, I have a new piece. I'm not really excited. I just kind of notice it. It's like the music is like the weather. You look at the weather and then you kind of, okay, it's raining. I need to get an umbrella. It's kind of like, it's something, it's in my subconscious, but it's also kind of outside. Maybe sometimes going for a walk, like you said, you could look up at the clouds and then the topography or the seasonal will give you an idea. But I never try to get ideas because that would be going back to the mental thing.
Correct.
In other words, I would take a walk for exercise. I wouldn't take a walk to help the music happen. So,
wow, that's beautiful. So, what do you think would be your advice to those who are sometimes extremely busy with their jobs? Now with the COVID coming in, everybody's at home and everybody's extremely busy. Home has become a workplace. So what would be your advice to busy people who have their jobs and want to learn music in the midst of their schedule? What do you think? Can these busy professionals learn to play the piano? What do you think?
Well, the main piece of advice I give is learn the chords, at least the major or minor chords. And then after that, chords based on those, more chords. And then music theory, which is kind of how the chords work together in various traditions. And the second thing I'd say, what's the normal amount of time that you would commute, be on the highway driving to work? Say it's 8 to 9 in the morning. Maybe that time could be for the piano that you would normally be in the car.
Yeah.
Or maybe put that hour at a different time of day, but you're not having to spend that time in a car once or twice a day or on the train or public transportation. That time could be used, or first thing in the morning, last thing at night. I don't always get to it, I don't do it every day. There's just some days there's too much going on. But, there's the weekends. I don't know if people work on Saturday or Sunday, but normally it's a 5-day week in the States. It could be on the weekend. I'm going to concentrate on the music, maybe.
What would be your advice in terms of their practice? Like busy professionals, they're wanting to learn music. They want to practice music. So how would you advise them in terms of their practice?
Maybe first thing in the morning.
Okay.
Once the day gets going, there's 5,000 things to do, So maybe if you get up at 9 in the morning, get up at 8. If you normally get up at 8, get up at 7. Or if there's people in the house and it's too noisy, maybe a certain time at night, like everybody has a lunch hour. Well, you could have a music hour. Now, I say chords and music theory because I don't use written music. I'm not a good music reader, but a lot of people would want the sheet music, that sight reading.
Yeah.
That's not the way I do it. I'm not good at it, and I don't want to do it that way anyway. I want to get the record of who I'm listening to and learn off the record.
Okay. Do you also say, like, being a very well accomplished pianist that you are, you don't read music, but then you're practicing music, you're learning chords, scales, music theory, and all of this. So you are also saying that it is possible for a person to not read music and still be able to play some of the great music. That's what I am able to hear, actually.
Yeah. Like they call it learning by ear. Like we all learned to talk growing up without any book. We all learned the language we speak without studying. We just were around. And so if you hear who you're studying, listen to the record, play along with it at the piano, or go to the piano and just play around, try to figure out what they did. It all adds up. It all takes time, and there's no rush.
Correct. I think for a reason we call it as piano playing. I mean, we play with it, right? Wow, that's beautiful.
There should be some discipline, but it should be enjoyment also. I mean, there'll be times I just have to be disciplined. I really don't want to do this, but it's the only way to get to the song the way I want. So it's not just pure pleasure, but not all discipline either. Maybe work on a song real hard, and then after that, just play something more that's easier, something for fun.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Wow. So we need to basically balance between certain aspects of practice in terms of discipline and certain aspects of being open-minded, creative in terms of playing the piano and exploring new possibilities with it.
Yeah.
Okay. So how do you think a person can understand their musical identity? Some people drift towards classical music, like you said, reading music. And personally, I don't drift too much to that, even though I have to teach music. So I use that as a tool. But then I would like to place a lot of emphasis and focus towards creating and probably engaging their personality with music. Like it's they engaging with music. So what would you say about a musical identity a person would have?
I'd say it's whatever they like, whatever they want to play.
Okay.
There's no right or wrong, no bad or good. It could be classical European, could be classical India, could be rock. Whatever you like, that's what's good. I only play what I like. I would never play what I don't like. I mean,
Okay.
like why? Why would I do such a thing? So, I mean, people ask me what my favorite song is. I say every song I play because I really want to play it really badly. I really, really want to play it. Otherwise, I'm not going to play it.
Wow.
I mean, why? Now, if you need to make a living and playing songs by request, that's a choice. I'm not good at that, but some people are really good at that. But as far as what one's own music is, it really comes down to what do they like and what do they want to play. There's a lot of music I like that I don't play. I don't play classical music from India. I love those traditions, but I'm not a player. So that would say that's inspiration, not influence, but that would be inspiration. So there's a lot of things that inspire me that I don't play, that I don't have any desire to play, that I just become inspired by. much like the seasons. Like classical music from India could be like the autumn season. I don't play classical music from India, and I don't play the autumn season. So, just certain things are inspiring, certain friends. Me, cats are extremely inspiring.
Okay. Wow. That's beautiful. So, what would you say to like? Imagine since I also teach children, and sometimes the parents have this. This is the posture, mental posture they have. That is, hey, you need to be reading music. You need to be doing the exams in music. You need to. I'm sure you've heard of the Trinity and the London College of Music exams. So. Parents would push the children in terms of, come on, you're gonna take it up, you're gonna parrot this music lessons. So students sometimes come to the music lessons like, I mean, they're not interested, they're just there for because the parents have sent them. What would be a word that you would tell those parents?
I would say give them some music lessons, but if they're truly not interested after a certain amount of time, find out what they are interested in. I had a few music lessons when I was 6. I wasn't interested at all. I wanted to play baseball, and so I worked on baseball. And then, but having some musical knowledge would be good because, like, I took it up 12 years later, so at least I knew what middle C was. So I think. Some is good, but don't push too much. It'll taint the music. It would be too much pushing will destroy it. Will destroy the desire to do it. So I never had any bad experiences with music. I mean, I wasn't like 10 or 11, had to play recitals and practice for 7 hours. Every experience I've had with music, listening or playing, has been a great experience. So I didn't start. I was 18, but I started because I wanted to more than anything.
Okay.
You could say a saying. I was on fire with it. I was like 10, 12 hours a day. I wanted to, as much as I wanted to breathe, and that was me. That was the time. So having a few lessons at 6 was good. But if it had been pushed on me, then I probably never would have gone back to it, very possibly. So kind of a balance. People have their kids learn different things, different sciences, music, different athletics. It'll put it in the kids' library, so to speak. It'll give it the kids in their mental library. But I wouldn't push too much. Well, also if they are learning music, not just reading music, but also chords and music theory.
Yeah. Music theory is like the foundation to thinking with music, right? Otherwise, it might just be parroting songs written on a paper.
Well, it's like having a picture of a city, but then you see street names. Like a chord like C major. A chord is like a word, and a note is like a letter. So if you know C major, you know C, E, and G together. You don't have to go C, E, G, play at the same time. You just go C major. So it's a way to organize. It's a way to be efficient. It's like a shortcut. Somebody plays C7th to F7th. You don't have to deal with the 8 notes. You just go, oh yeah, this is it, and this is it. Or if you're learning things off a record, I learn by writing the chords down that they're playing. And if I didn't know the chords, I'd have to go C, E, G, B flat. Instead, I can just go, oh yeah, that's C7. So you can also, if you're using reading sheet music, you could analyze a song by writing the chords above the notes. You could say, here's a C, here's an F, here's a D. It might help with memorization.
Yeah.
to be able to analyze the song as far as what the chords are playing. Now, I define a chord as any 3 or more notes played at the same time.
Yeah.
And chords can be different names, but what you call a chord would depend on the context. Like if I have C, E, G play together, but the left hand is playing an F, that's an F major 9. That's not a C major. So it all depends on the context. It depends on what the whole left hand is doing as well as the right hand. So in a way, it's a way to organize.
Yeah.
Like, imagine if you're reading a book and you had to read each letter instead of the words. It's like you can read the words, you can read much faster, and you can remember better.
Yeah.
Now, I never use sheet music, so I can't really compare. I mean, I sort of can do it, but not really. I mean, I can look at it and tell what's there, but I can't put it I can't put it at the piano and look at the paper and play anything. I maybe I've done it once or twice in my life, but it's not. I'm not good at it. But even more than that, that's not the way that I normally learn. And other people will learn by sight reading sheet music. So it all depends on the person.
So you are saying that some people are cut out for it.
Yeah.
Okay. And is there a way to know that, in your opinion?
I think each player finds out. Like maybe they'll hear the teacher play the song, and maybe then they'll play the song, but they're not looking at the paper. And then they would know that they learned that they're absorbing it by ear. I think each person finds out. Yeah. Maybe somebody likes a classical piece of music and they can't find the sheet music for it. And then they go to the piano and start fooling around with it. And but I think by ear is a natural way. Like I said, we all learn the language we speak without a book. We didn't do anything. We just grew up, and it was just there. We know these thousands and thousands of words without even trying. It's amazing. I mean, everybody has that.
So the natural way to go about learning music would be to use your ears and absorb music, experiment, play with it, and learning music theory so that we can cognitively understand what it means. Like music as a whole.
Yeah, that's for me.
Wow.
Somebody else, I've never talked to anybody about sight reading. It's just not an area I deal with. But I've known people who do it both ways.
Okay.
But I would say, learning to read some is good. I mean, I can look at a piece of paper, a sheet music, I can tell you what the chords are. But I can't play it.
Yeah.
I can't make it come to life on the piano. But if I had to, I could do it, but it'd be really slow. I'd say, get me the record. I'll get it better that way.
That's good. Okay, so like sometimes there is this connotation or this thought in people's mind, okay, especially in India here we see like some of the parents who are wanting their children to learn music, they have a certain mindset saying, okay, the Western classical music is the cream of music. And if you think of a pop or a jazz or a blues or any other style, they would somehow look at it like, okay, that's like not the best of the music.
Well, that's because of the taste of the parent. It has nothing to do with what the kid likes. But it's classical European. Yeah, it's one of the creams. They're all the creams.
Yeah.
What if you want to play sitar instead?
Because it flows through a tradition of music. Is that what you're saying, sir?
Yeah, and of course that's all done by ear. So it's all it's so the parents, if they think European classical music, because that's what they like, but what each person like has nothing to do with what another person likes. Like, what's your favorite color? What's your favorite cat? It's extremely individualistic. No, it's good to know about a variety of things because it can help you choose what to do. But to say something is best, well, that's just an opinion of the person saying it.
Okay. Wow, great. Thank you for that. And what do you think of, like you were also saying about there are certain music that inspired you and there are certain music that influences you. So it's very important for us to distinguish that, especially for music learners. Like I may be influenced or I may have an inspiration from the Indian music, that's what you said, but then your influences in terms of what you play are totally different, and that's a distinction that's important. What would you say about it, sir?
It's important to realize that I don't have to play everything. Nobody does. Nobody in the history of the world has played everything. Like, I love flamenco guitar, but on guitar, I don't play flamenco, but I'm inspired by it. On piano, it's J.S. Bach is wonderful, but it's not for me to play. It's for me to go, wow, that's beautiful. It's like looking at a sunset or something. And so I think it's important to know that while I don't have to spend my life learning, 40 different music traditions, although in the beginning I wanted to, but I go, that's not really quite me. But I sure love that. It's fun to try to do it, and you learn about the journey of trying to do things. And I come to terms, sometimes I often have come later to realize this really isn't the music for me to play, even though I tried to play it. It's music to be inspired to play by. So I think it's just everybody comes to terms with, like everything in life. They realize there are different areas of learning and employment and life, and then they're learning what fits them personally. So musically, it's really a lot like the rest of life.
Wow.
In a way.
Beautiful. So, Mr. George, really, I mean, this is a great pleasure to really have this great conversation with you. So, I mean, so that's all the question that I had for you. But then, finally, one last thing. Is there anything that you would want to tell our music learning community? Anything that you would want to say to them? Like, I'm sure with all the years of learning, there are some things that you understood, some things that was probably misunderstood, and then you understood. It took a lot of time to come to grasp with that. And so what would you like to tell our music learning community as they're young and budding? What would you say?
What do you really want to play? And as opposed to what should you play? Now, you can learn things with somebody said you should play this, but later it comes down to what do you want to do? What do you want to do really badly? I would say another thing, when I first started learning, I would go see rock bands play, and I'd look at the organists and take notes. And then when they were at intermission, I'd ask them questions. What did you do on this song in the ending? And I'd write it down. So I would say in certain areas of music, go see those people play, listen to the records, go see them play, and then ask. Almost everybody will answer your questions. I only had one person not answer my question ever. And everything I get asked, if I can help, I'll tell them the answer. Like somebody said, how do you do this? I'll say, oh, here, I do this with the left hand, I do this with the right hand. So I would ask, and the person doesn't want to give the answer. So no problem. You're not any worse off for asking.
Correct. Very true.
Or you might ask them for lessons. You might say, can I pay you to have a lesson once a week or once a month? Do you give lessons? Or can I email you a question occasionally or something? So that's another good thing, I think. Go hear everybody you can, and the area of music you like, go hear everybody you can. Live too, not just on recordings or not just on like the screen. One thing I want to mention, in the traditional Indian music, the ragas, they're very seasonal and time of day oriented, which is the way I am too by coincidence. So I have that, and that's what made me first start exploring Indian music in the 70s. This is a winter raga, this is a summer piece. I said, oh, that's all I do. Let me look. So I have the music is very different, but I do have that in common with that tradition. Oh, I just play because I love I've lived and traveled many, many places, and I love the seasons and the topographies, and that's the way I express that. Like a painter would draw paintings of that, or a novelist would write an adventure about the winter season or something. So it's just the way that it's the language I speak. Words aren't the language I use. It's instrumental music, and but somebody else, they might be a great photographer and do great photo books. It's all what does the person want to express. Well, one more thing I wanted to. There's a saying in the flamenco guitar tradition. It's not really that strict. Listen for 20 years, practice for 20 years, accompany dancers and singers for 20 years, and when you're 60, you're ready to be a solo guitar player. So there's different stages. My stages were experience the tremendous variety of the seasons in eastern Montana for 12 years, and then listen to music for 6 years, then play organ for 4 years, and then the next thing was the piano. So those were my stages of 12 years, 6 years, and 4 years. So people may find, I didn't realize I did not realize I was in those stages when I was in them. I was too busy doing it. But when I look back, I go, for me, that was absolutely the right thing to do, because the seasons are the whole basis. So to spend the first 12 years just with that, for me, was right. So I don't know if that'll help anybody, because if somebody's in a stage, they may realize they're going to have stages, or they may not. I didn't realize any of that at all till many years later. But it was an interesting thing to look back on. I think I can kind of feel when I'm in certain stages like that now, like a bit. But again, I'm so busy being in it that I don't really see it clearly. But that's okay, because you're in it, you're doing it.
Yeah. Wow. Do you have a life mission or anything like that, sir, right now?
Now, we work with for many decades, worked with a lot of food banks, helping people who are unlucky, the food banks in America, helping people get free meals. And this has been going on for many, many years. And that's the other.
I think I've read this actually. From 1986, you've been doing this, right?
Yes.
Wow. That's so nice.
It's not just now that it's necessary. There's always people that are in need everywhere.
Very true.
And there's always people like the food banks. There's always a lot of people that are doing a lot to help out. And then, so I'm more helping the people that do the work. I'm not really bringing the food, but I'm helping get them money to get the food. So it's the helpers are the real heroes here. I'm helping the helpers. And food, if somebody's having a bad time, you can find a place to sleep. You can generally find water, but food, you would have to steal it, So if somebody can get some meals they could start, getting things more together. So there's so many heroes that are helping out in that area and so many other areas, refugees, you name it.
Amazing.
Yeah, so that's the other life mission, just trying to, what's the best way I can help? I've been very, very fortunate myself, so how can I help? What's the best way I can help? And the food banks is one of those.
Wow.
Because it fits right in with the concert. Because we ask people to bring cans of food to the concert. And then at the concerts, when I sell CDs, the food bank gets the money from the CD sales. So that fits right in with the concert.
Wow, that's really noble. Thank you so much, George, for the great life that you have, not just as a musician, but as a human being. That's really amazing. Nice to know you in person. And dear friends, that's about it for today. We have had this amazing opportunity to talk to George. And thank you so much, George. Take care and really appreciate your music and your life. God bless.